All right, so we have ourselves the actual list from Irfan Ghaffar on a Sportsnet article, Radio Bit, talking about who exactly is on the Vancouver Canucks trading block. And it's filled with some names that you're kind of expecting and some others who you're kind of not expecting. Let's go over what Irfan Ghaffar says here. The title of the Radio Bit on Sportsnet website actually says Canucks trade block includes Sutter, Virtanen, and Baertschi. However, if you actually listen, there's actually a full list of other guys, including guys like Eriksson and Schaller in that discussion as well. So, just from this, we have the idea here that the Vancouver Canucks have 5 guys, 5 forwards on their trading block. Sutter, Eriksson, Schaller, Virtanen, and Baertschi. So let's go over a few of these guys here, understand why they're on the trading block, and get into a little bit of a discussion as to what we would get back, how much they're willing to go for, and if anybody's really thinking about trading for them, I guess. The Vancouver Canucks have had not the biggest successes here going throughout the past few years. That's obvious. And a lot of these years have been highlighted by some of these guys on bad contracts and some of these guys who have been underperforming, like Brandon Sutter, like Loui Eriksson, and to an extent even, you could say, Tim Schaller. Jake Virtanen is a guy who's younger, but he's a guy who hasn't lived up to his hype, getting drafted 6th overall in the 2014 NHL entry draft. And Sven Baertschi is a guy who's been injured. He's been concussed a few times. It's very, very ugly, and overall it's something that you wouldn't want to see for a guy who definitely does have that top 6 potential in the NHL. But all these guys are now on the trading block, and it comes to no surprise that the Vancouver Canucks would be willing to shop forwards. But at the same time, I wanted to bring it back to this perspective that I talked about in my video a few days ago. Or was it yesterday? I'm not too sure. I don't remember. Talking about trade rumors, because Elliot Friedman said that the Vancouver Canucks are in a position where they want to get rid of some of their lower depth forward players in exchange for other stuff. And particularly, it's a weird perspective because when you think about it, the guys like Baertschi, the guys like Virtanen, the guys like even Sutter, they're supposed to be the guys who are going to help us make the playoffs this year. And from the get-go, after we traded that first-round pick for Miller and after we signed the guys that we did, this team should be pushing for a playoff spot next year. And trading away a guy like Baertschi or a guy like Sutter or a guy like Virtanen hurts us in that department. It hurts us because no matter how injured Sutter is and how overpaid Sutter is, Sutter makes the team better when he's out there. He's a good defensive guy, he penalty kills, he backchecks, he gives it his all. Sutter, say what you want about him, doesn't have too many players in the lineup that could easily replace that style. Now, are there guys in the Vancouver Canucks lineup that are better than Sutter? Hell yeah, there are. But getting rid of a guy like Sutter in exchange for a pick, which is unlikely, but okay, opens up the opportunities for younger guys to come in. But these younger guys aren't necessarily in a position where I could definitely say that they're ready to take on that role. Adam Gaudette is a great example. I think he's got legit top 9 upside, maybe even middle 6 upside in the NHL, but he's not ready for that yet. Do I feel comfortable giving Adam Gaudette the same roles and responsibilities that we gave Brandon Sutter when he was healthy, assuming Brandon Sutter gets traded? I don't know if I'm there yet. Same thing can be said for a guy like Sven Baertschi. Who's going to replace the production that Baertschi gets when he's healthy? Tanner Pearson, okay, he's a good player. Miller, okay, he's a good player. But the fact of the matter is we still have Baertschi on our lineup. And he is a player who is good when he's healthy. So, in my opinion, it's kind of weird to say that you want to make the playoffs and trade these guys who can legitimately help you make the playoffs when you don't have too much supporting cast underneath them to justify making those trades. We have guys on top of them. We got guys on top of Sutter and Baertschi in the lineup that could help us make the playoffs, like Pearson, like Miller, like Bo, like Ferland, like Petey, like Besser. But replacing the guys who do well is a bit tougher, in my opinion. Sure, they're injured, and sure, they're not always in the lineup, but when they are in the lineup, they're effective. And I don't know if I'm willing to give a spot to Tyler Mott for 82 games and expect him to fulfill the role that Sven Baertschi did. Same thing with Sutter and Gaudette, Sutter and McEwen. All of these guys are in a position where I don't believe they're ready to take the next step. And if someone proves me wrong, then great. If we do trade Sutter, we trade Baertschi, we trade Schaller, we trade Virtanen, and we trade the other guy. Forgot his name already. If we do this, and we have 5 new guys slot themselves into our already packed forward core and they prove me wrong, then that would be great. But I don't know who can replace Sven Baertschi. I don't know who can replace Brandon Sutter. Notice I haven't talked about Eriksson. Oh my goodness, I forgot the other guy's Eriksson. Schaller, okay, I understand why they want to trade Schaller, but the way Schaller has been playing, I don't think you're going to get much for him. Eriksson, exactly the same thing. Jake Virtanen, somebody is going to take a chance on Jake Virtanen's potential if he's available on the trade block like this radio bit implies. But again, with Virtanen, he plays a style that I think is very hard to replicate, and I don't think too many Vancouver Canucks can replicate. Now, that's not to say that there are players that I wouldn't rather have over Virtanen. That's definitely true. But come on, we're not going to trade Virtanen for a player that's better than Virtanen. That's just not how it works. Especially on a team like ours, which is already packed at forward, we're close to the salary cap, and we're in a position where we want to make the playoffs. It's a weird position to be in. And Jim Benning came out here saying a few weeks ago that he wants to trade for another first-round pick. How? That's still my question. How? We have these guys on the trading block. You can't just add them all into one trade and get a first back. It's not NHL 19. Excuse me, it's not NHL 20. And I think if we're able to get some form of future assets, young prospects that look nice, picks, a second, a third, a fourth, anything, these usually look nice. And if we're able to get rid of a guy like Schaller for that, awesome. A guy like Eriksson for that, hell yeah. A guy like Baertschi for that? I don't know how you're going to replace him in the lineup, but I don't know. Okay, Sutter, same thing. Virtanen, same thing. Really surprised that Virtanen's actually on there, to be honest. Friedman came out and he said earlier that he didn't believe that Virtanen was on the trading block, but Irfan Gaffar kind of comes out with the contrary here in this radio bit, but overall, it's kind of interesting to think about. This team is so loaded on forwards that we have such a big ability to make trades, and we don't make trades. I think I saw something a while ago. Jim Benning is like the guy who's made the least trades in the past X amount of years or whatever out of all the general managers, excluding McPhee because he's with Vegas. Jim Benning doesn't make trades too often. And when he does, they usually piss off half the fan base. Unless it's Goodbranson for Pearson. That one was like universally accepted here in Vancouver. But that Miller trade for the first-round pick really was just a big turning point, especially with that clause, because I see some people still saying, oh, I want us to do bad because we need that first-round pick to get Jamie Drysdale or whatever. But overall, the Vancouver Canucks are in a weird position. Trading for a first, hey, I like it, but for the guys that you have in your trading block, I don't think that's possible. Not gonna lie. Trading for nice future assets seems possible to some degree, but to me the bottom line is if you trade away a Baertschi, a Sutter, or a Virtanen, you're making the team worse. You're making it worse. I don't think we have the depth to compensate for that. But if I'm proven wrong, and I could be proven wrong, I would be very happy. It's just my pessimistic Vancouver Canucks fandom in me is not allowing me to believe that a guy like Gaudette can come in and completely fulfill the same role that Brandon Sutter did. I don't know, it's weird. It really is kind of weird, but overall, if the Vancouver Canucks end up making a trade, then I guess it's a win. If they trade any of these guys, Baertschi is probably the only one that I'm thinking like, okay, we actually kind of need to be careful on the return for Baertschi because he's not on an overpaid status like Sutter where he doesn't contribute and he doesn't play, but he's overpaid. He's not a guy who's not lived up to his potential like Virtanen has. He's not a guy who's completely overpaid and virtually useless like Eriksson, and he's not a guy who's getting a little bit of money but not really doing anything like Schaller. Baertschi is the best player here, and I believe he's got 40, maybe even 50-point potential, so it's weird that he's on the trading block, but at the same time, the concussion history does exist. So if we trade Baertschi away, please give us something good. Hope you enjoyed this video. So that's 9, and bye.